Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Ayman Khan here with good to be speaking to once again some boxing reporter Wally Downes Jr. I've been messaging you as well. Haven't seen you in a while, so I had to get my fix with you over via Zoom this time around. Wally, how you doing?
I'm very good, Ayman. How are you?
Yeah, all the better to be speaking to yourself. Look, there's a lot. There's a few topics to discuss, namely one that people are discussing right now from the fallout yesterday. But I just want to get into a conversation we're creeping up on in a few months. Joshua versus Dubois at Wembley. You had the chance to sit down with him. I just wanted to get your feeling on his demeanor heading into that fight with Dubois.
Firstly, I think it's so great that this fight is coming up and coinciding with your presence on screen for a lot more of these interviews that I'm seeing now. So I think that the stars have aligned there. Um, yeah, AJ's demeanor, good. We sat down with him just after they'd had the round table face to face. Um, so we hadn't seen it, so he didn't really know what had happened. Um, Frank and Daniel played it down a fair bit. Daniel just said he had jet lag. To be fair, I did feel for him. I think he'd had a 12-hour flight back from Brazil overnight and come straight to the presser. Frank just said it was just got a little bit tasty. But yeah, watching it back, yeah, I feel for AJ because he has carried this sport almost impeccably, rarely ever put a foot wrong. Um, and because of that, sometimes people call him fake, don't they? Because they feel that he's not being a real him. But something that he likes to remind us sometimes is that the scar, it'll show you the scars on his knuckles and tell you, these didn't come from boxing. Um, so yeah, I just think sometimes he likes to remind people that he's not just a corporate suit who has thankfully been helping all of us pay our rent like for 12 years now. So yeah, I think it was just a little brief showing of of the real AJ, who I don't think has ever in any way been false. But I think he's just conducted himself incredibly well in the public environment, like the way most people do, and is probably yeah a bit more rough around the edges than he usually portrays when he's at work and carrying the sport for us.
He was very keen to just reading your article to say, look, I don't want to be in the situation where I'm fighting Tyson Fury. It's like I'm 40 years old, 41, 42, that sort of thing. Sort of like in the way where Khan and Brook met in the ring and it was eventually way past its sell-by date. I spoke to Eddie Hearn yesterday and I said, look, is there a rematch clause just in the eventuality or possibility, I should say, that Daniel Dubois should be anti-Joshua? Is there a rematch clause for that? And Eddie said, look, it's up to the Saudis what they want, but it's not set in stone that Dubois would win. So all systems potentially a go for Joshua and Fury to meet in some form, even if both don't end up winning their fights.
Yeah, I think categorically, barring a huge disaster, AJ and Fury will fight the first quarter of 2025. Um, yeah, I think AJ losing to Dubois might be a big problem. Sort of making it a huge sell, making it as great as it was. I don't even think Fury losing to Usyk would tarnish it again. To be honest, yeah, I think it's all but done. As long as Joshua doesn't suffer some sort of catastrophic defeat to Dubois and has to have a lot of time out, um, I think it's all nailed on, all done. It's all that Turkey Al Shakers seem to be driving for. And yeah, he seems to get what he wants these days. He's making all the big fights for us, and yeah, I think that's what will happen. It was interesting that the IBF has become available and is up for grabs because when Turkey tweeted out the new dates and said confirmed, done, he did say it was undisputed. So he wasn't sure if the IBF have stripped or if there has been a bit of a deal done. But I think it just sounds like a clever move, really, because it makes this September 21 Wembley show massive because it has a world title on there. And it does mean that when Fury and AJ fight, there is an outside chance that it could be for undisputed. Probably will be for at least one belt though. If you fancy Usyk does the business again and AJ comes through Dubois.
Moving to the top of the headlines, there was some cause for further concern regarding the behavior of Ryan Garcia, who's went on another social media tirade, this time targeting certain demographics and using very unsavory language in his discourse. Very serious situation with Ryan, where his father has now called out that he needs that help, and it seems to be evident that this seems to be the case.
Yes, it's really worrying. I mean, he was showing signs of all this going into that fight. So how on earth he's? I mean, obviously the peds helped, but how he held it together in there and didn't have the sort of an Oliver McCall moment is baffling. But yeah, I've seen some clips since where he's sometimes these things happen and people can say that they were hacked or they can say that that something was taken out of context. But I've seen videos since where he's refused to take the opportunity to deny or even apologize what's the tweets that were attributed to him. So yeah, very worrying, very strange. WBC have distanced themselves from him. His parents are now saying what they're saying. In the videos I've been catching, I am trying to see who, the people who are hanging around him, leeching off of him, are also the ones that are enabling this. So, there's no one in there that I recognise, but that's a danger and a worry. And the people that are around him, if his parents can't get in there and help him, then it's a shame. But yeah, the people that are around him and that are enabling him or encouraging it or just not looking after him, they're the ones that need to be held to account because the fella looks utterly lost and struggling with all sorts.
Just in your time within boxing, obviously you've been here longer than I have. Can you remember any similar sort of case to what Ryan Garcia is showing?
I don't want to make a very blatant comparison and Ryan Garcia, but when Tyson Fury had his big sort of breakdown, he was doing and saying some really strange things. I don't need to say what they were, but long before he beat Klitschko, he was going on some of the YouTube channels and saying some very unsavory things that weren't allowed to be said. But he wasn't a huge star then. No one really cared very much. And it sort of slipped under the radar. And then obviously he beat Klitschko and everything went wrong afterwards. That's the only close thing that I can see. And that was a man. Yeah, I wasn't even covering boxing properly then. But I remember the boxing reporters that were at the time, lads like Chris McKenna and Deck Taylor, they were around that camp in the build up to Klitschko and before then, and they've relayed to me that Fury was. Sometimes these fighters will say things because they're fighters, because they're working class, because they might be on the borders of mental health problems, or you just have to be such a strange mind to do what they do. And the reporters were hearing it and listening to him say it, but they weren't reporting it. And they wasn't burying it or covering it up, but they could tell that that a fellow was struggling and not fully in his right mind. And then obviously he did do a proper interview, I think, with the Daily Mail, where it all did come out, and then it was addressed. But so that's the only version that I can really think. Certainly, at a high level like this. But Ryan's seems to be, I think Fury was definitely having a breakdown, but I don't know if Garcia's his substance abuse or if he's struggling with something medically. But it's not. I'm not comparing them to really heavily or with any great conviction, but I do remember Fury was saying some crazy stuff as well. And it seems like these lads, they get into that sort of conspiracy thing, the Matrix, Andrew Tate, the Illuminati. It's bizarre. Bizarre, worrying, and hopefully he gets healthy.
Lastly, I don't have a good segue for this, but I'll just ask you anyways. It seems like Chris Eubank Jr. made the decision to not go forward with the Hamza Shiraz fight, and he now seems to be in the pole position for the Canelo sweepstakes and for that big fight with Canelo Alvarez, which has been seeking for one of these huge fights for a while. What do you know about the prospect of Eubank Jr. being Canelo's next opponent?
I think by the sounds of it, Canelo and Eubank are the only two people that have probably let down or turned down Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudis. So they're probably made for each other. Really, Turkey's been trying to get Canelo on a show, and he can't. It hasn't been able to put it together. And Chris Eubank Jr. flatly turned down Hamza Shiraz. So you won't be seeing him pop up in any Riyadh season shows for a while, I don't think. Yeah, I guess he looked great coming back against Liam Smith, but then he's had a long period out. I don't think it's any secret that he wants money. He fights for money to make money. He's a prize fighter. There have been lots of world title opportunities that he could have gone for, but they are low paying and they are high risk. Um, like Janabek, like Adami's, like there's he says that he wants a world title, but let's be honest, it doesn't look like he does. But he's got every right to just take these crazy money fights, which the Canelo one is. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm pleased for him, excited for him because he has wanted this fight for a long, long time. Um, yeah, hopefully the Conor Ben one, he was just finished now. But again, that'll be a big money fight somewhere down the line. Just it's good that no one's talking about it anymore. We move on to talk about other fights that are happening. So yeah, interesting, exciting. Um, yeah, be a good test for him really because like the Liam Smith defeat really came out of nowhere and took a lot of us by surprise. So it'll be interesting to see what he's got if he can get Canelo in the ring.
Very lastly, just talking about Canelo being in that squared circle, what of Eubank Jr.'s prospects with this discussion about Canelo slipping now, being over the peak? Still a very good fighter, but is Chris catching him? Is Chris, got a good chance of winning that fight?
No, I don't think so. I think when Canelo has lost or not looked great, won but not looked great, it's usually coming up against. I mean, he just went too big, but when he's also struggled, it's been against the very good boxers. So yeah, I mean, Chris is tough and incredibly fit and strong and dedicated. But I wouldn't have him down as, a Mayweather, um, or a Bivol. I think technically Canelo can be out. I thought Billy Joe Saunders was flying when they boxed. Obviously, turned it around in sensational fashion. I don't think Bivol completely outboxed him, but I just don't think Chris. Yeah, I think it's a proper fight, and not much of a boxing contest. And I think yeah, I think Canelo would be still too big and too strong
Wally, pleasure,
and too good.
pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for speaking to Second Out. Knew it'd be a good conversation as it always is. Hopefully, I'll see you very soon in the flesh too.
Stay classy.